Now, it's time for the Anchormen podcast with Matt Gates and Dan Ball.
Welcome back to the Anchorman Show. I'm Matt Gates alongside my good friend Dan Ball, and we have welcomed back again producer Vish Burra.
Vish!
You know why you're back, Vish? You're back because our last episode got over 1.1 million impressions on my X account. So we thank everyone who likes and shares the content. You're helping get these discussions platformed in a big way. So we're not changing the recipe. You were here last week. You're here this week. And it's a very special Staten Island week coming up, Dan. You've got a buddy coming to join us.
I invited a good friend of mine. If they watch Real America in the last few years, they know this guy. And you know him from Staten Island. He is an artist. He's an activist. And he's a hell of a patriot, Scott Lebedo. I mean, the guy can paint a flag with his hands in seconds. It looks amazing. He'll throw a few colorful metaphors in about every other second, so be ready at home.
Not a moderate.
No, he's not a moderate. But I'll tell you, I didn't realize his story. Like 30-some years, this guy's been out protesting, getting arrested, but doing it peacefully, but all for patriotic causes. Now, when's the last time you saw a conservative do that? It's always the wacko lefties that are being paid by Soros to go out and destroy crap and act like an idiot. He goes out and peacefully protests, like, why aren't you letting kids read the Bible or have a flag in their classroom? Or why are you trying to defund cops? We need more people like that on our side. I'm not huge on the protesting, but I love that he does it because he does it classy. He does it tastefully. He does it with his art. But most importantly, he does it peacefully.
Well, you know, us Rosebank, Staten Island boys are just built a little different. I was one of those guys that was out there protesting as well. We made it a thing when working.
Were you ever arrested protesting?
No, I was never arrested, and you know, I'm usually
detained. There's a difference. Were you detained?
No.
Okay,
I've never been detained. I've never nothing like that. In fact, actually, we would work with the NYPD and make sure whatever protests we were hosting went smoothly. So that was the thing. Because we're young Republicans, we want to work with the people who are protecting us and keeping us safe and making sure we're safe when we're expressing our.
Because we actually believe in law and order, right, guys?
That's right.
Unlike that crazy side.
Well, this is going to be our best episode too, because you brought some hooch for the table. What is this stuff, Dan?
So, you know, since we're doing the podcast thing, we can have a little libations. And when you see Scott come on the program, he's always talking about libations. And so the other day, this week on my show, and I think you came in studio after the guy was on, Tim Oates is the CEO of this really cool company called Second Amendment or 2A Bourbon, right? And they send them in these cool little old, I think they've got an orange one, this camo green, but different military looking like ammo boxes. And every single bottle, let me just grab it here.
This looks like this is like the groomsman gift.
Yeah,
that you want to get.
Yeah, this is awesome. There we go, camo. Because on the back of every single bottle, shall we read it all together? A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. What's those last few words, guys? Shall not be infringed. Every single bottle's got the Second Amendment on it, so I love that. And
it's a great troll gift too.
I didn't think of that.
That's a great, like,
send it to your people trying to take our guns.
If someone who either loves or hates the Second Amendment,
great idea.
It's a fantastic.
And the little stopper is cool because it's got 2 bullets and a little 2A thingy right in the center.
All right, so Dan, I gotta talk to you about this shutdown stuff.
And we got to talk 2A later too, by the way, because I got some news.
Oh, cool. The way this played out feels like the Democrats realized they were in a trap right before it closed and then got out, because had there been a shutdown, then the only thing standing in the way of some of Doge's work, like, has been the courts. And if you could go into the courts and say, well, Your Honor, like, you say we don't have the authority, but Congress has put us in a shutdown, so like, stuff's got to get closed, stuff's got to get canceled. If we'd have gone into a shutdown, we would have never come out of it. Trump would have been, listen, I love the shutdowns. We will every single day. I want the House to pass a bill to pay our troops, pay our border patrol, pay our letter carriers, like the essential stuff.
Yeah, the essentials.
Yeah.
Safety, security.
And every day we would have been serving those up as single subject spending bills, something I'm pretty passionate about.
Yep.
And now, you know what? Schumer woke up. He realized it. How are you thinking about the Democrats observing the traffic?
I think it's freaking hilarious. I mean, this wasn't even, was it 24 hours? And if you all don't know what we're talking about, get caught up. Like, so Monday, Tuesday, the Dems are all like, the Republicans are going to shut the government down. It's going to be horrible for everybody. There's no way the Republicans screw them. Da-da-da. And then we'll shut it down and now we're back on, I think they see, or maybe they didn't see, the writing on the wall. The majority of Americans, they thought we're left. They thought we're liberal. They thought we're leaning towards these progressive radical ideas. And then November happened. Matt, you had your big win. Republicans had big wins. President Trump had big wins. And they don't know what they're doing. I really think they have no clue. Because first it's like, we'll let it shut down. Then no, we won't. We're going to save it. And then it's like, oh, wait, did they figure out, like Matt just said, that this would give Trump carte blanche to do whatever him and Elon want to do when it comes to these cuts, which are amazing.
We would have made shutdowns great again.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I've been wanting a shutdown for a while. It doesn't, look, all the emergency personnel stuff stays in check. Okay, the parks, Joshua Tree and national parks get closed down. Other than that, you're going to get your mail. The troops get paid. TSA, Border Patrol, all the safety, security stuff, folks, doesn't go away. They lie to you when they say that. It's the other, how many people are employed by our government, by the way? Do you even know the freaking number?
It's got to be in the millions.
It's the other hundreds of thousands that do meaningless jobs that, might not get a paycheck. Oh, well, your family will still be fine.
Well, I don't even know that it's that. I don't know that it stratifies it so much by mission set, but programmatically, you could just say, well, we're in a shutdown, so I'm going to go vertical on Department of Education. That could be a way it would go. So, Vish, hold on, true or false, a government shutdown would have been the most aggressive way to empower Trump?
That is true. And the Democrats, quite frankly, they were in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation from the beginning. If they shut it down, it would have given Trump carte blanche. Elon Musk would have been able to roll in with the chainsaw and just start going left and right with no government bureaucrats standing in his way. And their base were the ones who were calling for the shutdown from the very beginning to shut down Elon Musk. So now the base, they didn't even go push it till Friday to surrender, right? The Schumer surrender comes with 24 hours left to go on the clock. So the biggest losers, if the government was shut down, would have been the Democrats, because all their bureaucrats they love would have been chopped out. But if they did surrender, the biggest losers are the Democrats.
Do you think they realized it, though, Vish, while he was doing it? While Chuck was standing up there saying, we're not going to sign the CR, and then coming out Thursday and saying, we're signing the CR because we're not going to let Donald Trump shut it down, when 24 hours before he was fine with shutting it down. Do you think he actually understood what the hell he was saying when he said it?
Well, yes, I think he understood it, but he also does not care about his base. Again, the biggest problem the base has right now is no leaders, right? And so they look at Schumer, they look at Jeffries, and they're just like, do something. Shut it down just to show us you can do it. And they couldn't even get that far.
I believe Bernie Sanders is the current leader of the Democratic Party. He's got the biggest crowds right now. Bernie may be the way to the youth movement is Bernie Sanders.
No, I think Al Green is the leader of the Democratic Party right now.
Oh, Al Green with his cane.
He was the last guy to actually physically stand up against Donald Trump the last time they were in a room together.
He did stand, even though he barely could stand.
Could you just imagine the presidential debate? Gavin Newsom, I had a podcast with Charlie Kirk, Al Green. I waved my cane at Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. All those votes in South Carolina going way up.
Bernie Sanders, though, he could be like, well, I've got the backing of Reacher, that famous actor. I've got the back. Yeah. Because you have a little beef with him, I saw online, and he brought up Bernie in the article where he gave you crap. When they asked him, who, by the way, if you know what I'm talking about, Alan Ritchson, he's the actor, that big, huge dude that plays Reacher. When they asked him, do you have any politicians you look up to? Since he was bagging on you and most politicians, he said Bernie Sanders was his only hero he could think of in any political movement. Bernie Sanders.
He's making my argument. Bernie is the current leader of the Democratic Party. Look, and here's what I offer in support of that. The policies of the Democratic Party right now are the policies of Bernie Sanders. That plus the biggest crowd plus the biggest online donor list, and probably the highest name recognition among people who are going to vote in the upcoming Democratic primary. Run, Bernie Sanders.
But Bernie
this
claims
is
he
your
doesn't take
time.
that money. He doesn't take that
the
money,
last
Matt.
two was your time, but this is your time, Bernie. You need to get in the 2028 race. You need to assume the mantle of the leadership of the Democratic Party. If you don't, who are you waiting to lead you, Bernie? You waiting for Gavin Newsom to show up and lead this party?
No,
Can we talk about that podcast, by the way?
So
Have
they
you
had
seen
Bannon
episodes?
on. So he had Bannon on recently.
I saw.
And I think that, here's the thing. I got a bunch of text messages from a lot of friends, especially with his episode with Michael Savage, with Bannon.
Yep,
They were
Charlie
like,
Kirk.
this guy in long form, he's kind of formidable, actually. Now, it's because he's sociopathic and will say whatever he needs to say, and he knows what audience he's playing to. Actually, if you listen to the responses,
This is my Gavin.
his podcast and the message he's pushing out on it is not really meant to go left. It's meant to go right.
Yeah, but why is it formidable? Is it formidable because he gives a great presentation of the American left's ideology, or because he's occupying a different space?
No, actually, I want to
latter.
give an example. In the Michael Savage podcast, Michael Savage was there saying, it's the taxes, Gavin. It's the taxes here in California that I'm just about ready to leave. But I got my home in Florida, and that there's no taxes there and all that, and I'm ready to bounce. And Gavin nails him to the wall on it, and basically he has identified Florida as the foil to any messaging in 2028. He started talking about how Florida and Texas tax the lower end of
Lower income people.
and
don't,
California
is his claim now.
California doesn't.
Saw that.
Right? And so but it's not whether that's true or not. It's that his strategy is actually very smart in that he has identified making Florida the big target in his messaging to say that California is actually better. And at the end of the day, Michael Savage still hasn't left California.
Yeah, I think he's using the podcast, you're totally right, to come center right to the people watching it, because Democrats are chewing him up over this. Liberals are hating him for bringing on, Steve Bannon. I think we all like Steve Bannon, but the left hates that man. They might hate him more than you, Matt. Let's be real. And
They
me.
did lock him up.
Yeah, okay, you didn't get
I'm
locked
here
up.
sitting with you guys.
Okay, yeah, we're having some whiskey. So I think that he is playing it very center right, and he's hoping that righties will see it, or let's say non-Trump conservatives that he might bring over to his side.
But those aren't the people he has to persuade to win the Democratic primary. I'm always of the perception you have to win one election at a time, and he's got to go win in South Carolina.
Right.
Is that the message that's going to play, that
Well, I
he
think
sat down
that's-
with Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk?
I think
And
that he's
Michael
trying
Savage?
to set up, like Vish said, I agree with this, because I was watching, I would answer the questions with Charlie. With Charlie, it was interesting, because you're not going to own Charlie Kirk. Charlie owned Gavin in that. Let's be real. He did. But he would throw in so many falsehoods. Like even the other day was the Michael one where he said, I never once said anything about Latinx. Who came up with that? That is crap. I agree with you. I never. And then they brought up like 2-3 tweets with the receipt and were like, hey, Gav, here's 2 tweets from your official account saying Latinx. So he's lied throughout the first 3 episodes, but it doesn't matter because he's going to get that messaging out there to those center, either right or center left, because obviously if they're an extreme lefty, they're not going to like Gavin Newsom because of what he's saying and who he's discussing with. They're pissed off. He's even giving us conservatives a platform. Their Matt even started this and said, every guest is going to be somebody on the right. They think that was stupid.
I think it's that he wants to be the leader of the Democratic Party, and he realizes that the conflict that is playing out in Washington isn't really true conflict. And so if he's able to go and create conflict with a Bannon, with a Charlie Kirk, with a Michael Savage, then he can become the leader, not even by being the hero of the story, but by being the villain.
Well, yes, but what he's not doing is actually... He's not doing conflict. A lot of it is him agreeing with his guests.
He agrees
right?
constantly, and I'm going, that's why the left's getting so pissed off at him.
Yes,
He's going, yeah, I see your point. And by the way, what's up with the hand gestures? You saw me doing that. This stuff he's out of control on that. I don't know if we have any video of the podcast, but don't waste your time. It's a crap podcast. But the hand gestures, and I forget who I had on the show yesterday or today, and they're like, well, that's all part of the PSYOP. That's distracting, so you're not listening to what he's saying, so you don't want to go fact check him because you can't what the hell is all this? While he's going, I never once, with his raspy voice.
Gavin, it doesn't just work for any white guy with good hair. I'll
That's
just
right.
tell you.
You got to know how to do it right, properly.
So wait, hold on. Before we bring in our buddy Scott, I have to get your take on this because one of the biggest stories around was this race where everyone is on one side or the other of whether or not this was an intentional act or this was an accident. So let's go ahead and get this, I guess, some sort of baton sprint competition.
Yeah, it was a relay race.
Yeah, okay, the relay. All right, so here she's coming around.
I mean, Good Morning America, everybody had these girls on.
Right.
It's a big fight. Oh.
Okay, so that's the swing. That's the heat.
Hey, now watch her body.
Bam. Bam. And then she hit the head, and that was down.
All right, so Vish Burra, intentional or accidental?
100% intentional, because anyone who's an athlete, especially a track star, knows about running mechanics. And that right there is no part of that which is running mechanics, especially the raising of the hand that way, and then not bringing it back either, right? Because the way to run is like this, right? And so and actually, if you move your arms faster, you will run faster. And so her doing the hit and then going back up instead of down is actually, I think, the tell.
Did you hear her?
Running expert Vish Burra. If you
I don't think anybody's going to take advice from the three of us.
If you want great running takes,
athletics.
if you want to know the true mechanics of running, a man who knows this better than anyone. He has a black belt in running. Vish Burra, how many miles a day do you run, Vish? Like 6, 8?
6 or 8 inches.
Yeah.
All right, so Dan
He
Ball,
does bike about 6 or 8 miles on an electric bike.
are you in on this as an accident?
So here's the deal. If you watch the interviews, because you emailed me, I think, yesterday on this subject matter, and I went and watched the interviews on Good Morning America, because, it's a trusted news source brought to you by Pfizer. I almost believed the gal for a second in her moping, crying interview, because she was like, and this goes to your whole mechanics, when you're running full speed and you're doing a turn, your body's going in one motion. She claims she lost her footing and got off to the left, and that's why I rolled it again back there. And that's why her arm is up, because she was about to fall, and she says to get her momentum back forward, she brought her arm down and hit her on accident. That's her claim. So watch the left foot. I don't see her falling. So I believed her for about 20 seconds watching the interview, because I used to run cross country and track, and I handed off the baton. And if you are running full speed, making a turn, and let's say your left ankle rolled, okay, that's what she claims. And watch the left foot right there. She says, I was leaning and falling to the left, so I brought my body back over to stay straight up, and that's how I hit her, but it wasn't on purpose. That's her claim. Now, does anybody see that in her footwork? I don't see it.
Are you buying it?
No, not now that I'm sitting there examining.
All right, now we've got her explanation. Let's get it straight from
The horse's mouth?
the person.
Okay.
All right, from the runner. Let's get
Everett says the incident is a complete misunderstanding, pointing to another angle of the race as proof.
The baton was literally
I'll do
like
the
her
ad
arm
read.
was
We'll talk about.
her arm was literally hitting the baton like this until she got a little ahead and my arm got stuck like this.
In the video, Everett is seen on the inside track running the 4x200 relay at the Virginia State High School League Championships when junior Kaylin Tucker came around the outside on the corner.
That's when she hit me with the baton. I just felt a bang on my head, and then I fell off the track immediately.
I'm buying it.
You are.
I'm going against both of you.
I said I almost did for a second, but
I just can't imagine moving that fast and having to stay upright and having all of those limbs in motion. I just feel like a lot could happen, and I'm totally here for the explanation.
I cannot wait to see the comments on social media when this is posted.
Even it doesn't look like.
We're gonna get more comments on
was
this.
just glad it was
Chuck
women.
Schumer rolling over.
I was just glad it was two women competing against one.
Right, not a man acting like a woman.
We had a sports controversy that was two women competing against one
Yes.
another. That's the way I'd like my sports controversies.
Complete fairness right there. Two real women.
Okay, so there was this thing that just played out in Utah where Governor Cox had to confront signing legislation in the face of calls from the LGBTQ community to act one way or the other, and no less than the Sundance Film Festival hung in the balance. Vish?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there's this legislation that came onto Spencer Cox's desk, governor of Utah, and it's basically, putting the kibosh on some of this LGBTQ stuff. And Sundance Film Festival said, if you sign that legislation, we're pulling out.
Everything else the Mormons do, we're cool with.
Yeah, exactly.
This legislation is a bridge too far.
Yeah. And so here's the thing,
Did he flinch?
I don't think. I think it still hangs in the balance at the moment.
Wow.
But what I felt, the thing people don't talk about enough is the idea of the parallel economy, right? Like this idea, like, oh, if you guys sign that legislation, we're pulling out our business, right? And even California did this when Florida put in some legislation. I think it was the anti-groomers bill or whatever. And California said, we will not fund any, state visits or any business trips to
right.
Florida, right? And so if we get into this tit for tat game, like, could you imagine what conservatives and people who are, donate to the right and are business people on the right can do to Democrats instead? Like, oh yeah, we don't like this legislation that you guys are signing. What if we just shut off the oil from Texas to the rest of the country? What do you think about that?
That's a good
point. Or how about, oh, we don't like your, this legislation that you passed in Minnesota. We're going to shut off all the milk from the dairy farmers.
No
right?
cheese from Wisconsin.
Yeah. And
didn't this happen with Major League Baseball with the All-Star game a couple years ago down in Georgia?
Yeah.
Remember that when they?
But where does it lead?
That's what I'm saying. This is
Right,
the
it's gonna go that far.
The fundamental question is, can we share a country with the other side? Right? That is the fundamental question. And that is what's
Gitmo's not that big, Vish. Gitmo's not that big.
I can. I want to be on the side of the people who are totally willing to be a part of a shared economy with people who don't hold my views or my values. I think that is part of what makes a nation, your willingness to do that with people who don't agree with you. It's the other side that's trying to debank us, censor us, remove us from any type of public dialogue or just natural economic transactions.
No, they want to shut us down in every facet, in every capacity. It's like...
But would you live in economic harmony with the left?
I mean, I have. I've lived in California how many years?
Fair point.
Okay.
That's a really good point.
So, I mean, you just got here, pal. You just got here. Okay. Well, you've been in New York, though. You're the one that's been in Florida with, like, sane conservatives. He's been in NYC, and I've been in Cali for a long time. So we've been around these radicals for a while. So, yes, I've lived in somewhat harmony with them. Am I more specific about my expenditures these days? Yes, because of the radical left in California and this country. So does that mean I want to... As Vish was just your point, I'm not going to go try and cancel them or this tit for tat BS. What I will do, like the other day, I just called a company looking for some portable restrooms for our housewarming party. That obviously you and the wife are coming to. You're coming to.
Now that we know there's portable restrooms, who could miss it?
Sorry, we don't want 50, 60 people using the house back and forth. So we thought we'd get a nice one. Those trailer ones that have the mirrors and they got AC and heat and they got the sink. They're nice. Not a work site.
Not even all the houses here have
nice
AC and heat.
That's only down by the border. So anyway, I looked at a couple companies, and the one that had the name Patriot Potties, that's the one I went with. And guess what? When she called me back,
that is so on brand.
Right? It's on brand, baby. And when she called me back, she leaves a message that says, she matched my voicemail. She's like, call me back. It's da-da-da with this company. She's going, you have a MAGA day. Because on my voicemail, it says, Dan Ball, host of yada yada, have a MAGA day. I'm like, now you'll get my money. But if I would have looked up another company, checked their reviews, maybe looked at the owner's social media, and I see F Donald Trump and I'm on board with Kamala, I'm not going to call that company. I'm not going to try and ban them. I'm not going to try and dox them. I'm not going to try and be a jerk like the left. I'm just not going to spend my hard-earned money with that company.
Inclusivity toilets isn't getting your business.
It was my latest example.
So this is the man with the Patriot toilets, but also some pretty fly Patriot.
Ooh, you like this, huh?
It's just some fly stuff,
dude. You know what? I'm going to get you and Vish some. So we've got what do we got? We got ARs. That'll piss off the left. We got the flag. That really upsets them. The bald eagle because God, you got to hate on birds, and a knife. Actually, this shirt and a whole bunch you're going to see on this program from here on out is going to come from my buddies over at Grunt Style. If you don't know Grunt Style, look it up. started by vets, for vets. Besides having an awesome clothing line, they also have a foundation that does a lot to help veterans causes, especially with the suicide. And let's be real, it's not 22 a day, it's about 44 a day in this country. So if you want to learn more, go to the Grunt Styles website, go to their foundation website, the charity wing, learn more, donate, help them out. But I'm proud to wear their stuff. We're going to get up here on the shelf. And yeah, they're one of the sponsors of the Anchormen now. So we got to get you guys all decked out in some Grunt style.
I will never say no to clothes.
Right. Yeah, we know.
Especially for-
You are
They
a
got
clothing
great hats,
whore.
too. You love the hat. How many?
I got hats. You want some hats?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'll get
How many hats do you own?
Oh, at least 200. Yeah, at least 200.
I just organized my closet. Hold on. 6 holding 6, and I have 7 of. I have 42.
42. Yeah.
I have 42 hats, I think.
Not
You have
bad.
200.
I've got like 9.
Well, see, the way I purchase my hats is, usually if I visit a place or something, I grab that as memorabilia. But actually, the driving force is my outfits and particularly my sneakers. So the sneakers and the hat, the colorway has to match. It's a very like New York City street.
What percentage of your hats have you worn?
That's a good question, actually. Probably 45%.
Oh, wow.
So more than half.
So kind of like your shoes.
Have never graced the dome piece.
That's right. Yeah, and so there's like a rotation, and then there's a bunch that sit on standby for particular outfits and particular looks.
Yeah, I've never worn this
Right.
one. I'm not going to sweat up this one that DJT signed for me. And I've got 2 or 3, so I don't wear those because that would be, I don't want to get head sweat in them.
Yeah.
But so you treat some of them like your shoes, because last week when you were on, you're saying that a couple dozen pairs of your shoes are still in the boxes.
Oh, yeah.
In the wrapping, like you don't touch
yeah.
them.
Yeah, I have to figure out the right way, the right time, right place to deploy them. Right?
A freaking mission over here. This guy didn't even serve. He's like, I'm going to deploy the shoes.
I mean,
It's going to be a chick magnet with the matching, you got to coordinate. You got to coordinate. Anybody know that movie line, by the way?
There was a big
Nope,
piece
nobody knows it.
of fashion news. Versace is selling Prada, potentially buying them, and that's because luxury purchases are coming down in the United States right
And
now.
isn't Donatella stepping down as the CCO I saw?
Correct.
Donatella?
well, as it should
She's
be.
out.
First of all, as it should be. Is it really luxury if everybody has it? That's the question. Like, yeah, luxury sales should be going down. And not everybody should be buying that stuff in the first place. I think actually a lot of the corruption of the culture just amongst normal people is like buying those brands when they're not like ready for them, right? When they have or they don't actually have a good amount of money to purchase them. There's other things that you could focus on. And so, I think.
But
I
this
don't think-
society tells me I need a Prada bag.
Look, I get it. Everyone wants nice things, right? But also that should be done in a form of moderation.
I'll take my grunt style patriotic shirt over a Versace shirt any day of the week.
I say that as I'm wearing Louis Vuitton sneakers.
Yeah, I have to say the internet is going to
This guy-
destroy you with
You're
photos
done
of
now.
yourself.
That's right.
You are
No.
done.
That's
But
right.
but moving from the materialistic to the spiritual a bit, Christ is King was trending number 2 on Twitter or on X today because there was a report that came out of one of these censorship, we stop hate groups affiliated in
Here
some
we
way
go.
with Rutgers University, saying that Christ is King has now been appropriated by the far right as a tool of anti-Semitism, as a tool of ethno-nationalism.
Right. It's a dog whistle.
And I'm just like, what I love about the internet, why the internet is undefeated, is that everybody was posting Christ is King and sharing their faithful moments.
Do you know who would probably say that on this show along with a lot of other words that the left might not like? Our next guest.
Is
Should we
he
bring
with
him on?
us?
I think he is. Is he not here yet? No?
I don't know
He's
that-
not ready yet. Not
All
yet?
right,
Okay.
all right.
You know what he's probably doing? He's probably protesting something in New York City right now as we speak because of all the crazy protesters that were at, Baynard and Columbia and all the little yuppie Ivy League schools in New York when they were out complaining because we threw this Mahmoud Khalil guy, gotten his ass out of the country. Well, not yet. He's in Louisiana, but we're kicking him out soon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about this paid-for agitator who somehow got a student visa, ends up coming over acting like he's going to be a student in our country, but he's a paid agitator. He supports Hamas, Hezbollah, all these ridiculous terrorist organizations, and he goes on campuses and he gets kids and adults riled up and then gets violent against Jews, speaking of Jews, and other students.
When he
who are
got
just trying to-
violent?
Oh, have you not seen some of the videos?
I mean, I hadn't seen like actual violence that he had done.
Maybe not him physically, but he's out there and he's riling these people up. I mean, they're the ones spitting, shoving, blocking, not letting kids get to classes. And he's been one of the major organizers. So like Marco Rubio said today, look, this is about free speech. We're not going to stop anybody from their free speech, especially us. We've been censored like crazy. This is an issue of he shouldn't have got approved for a visa in the first place.
Fact.
And he said if he got a green card, we would have revoked it. Because the whole thing is when you apply for these, if we never would have had the Biden regime, there is a vetting process. And he would have been asked before he came over, what are you coming for? You know, your background questions, blah, blah. And if he would have said, oh, I'm coming to stir up the American people to support Palestine, to support Palestinians, to support the movement in Gaza, and we're going to talk shit on Jews and Americans because America ain't that great, and we're going to have these big protests that turn violent, we're going to shut down schools, we're going to block roadways. That's what I'm coming for, not to get a degree. As Marco said, we would have never approved your visa or green card. So the reason we're now revoking it and sending your ass packing back home is not because of free speech, because the right has been censored more than the left ever in this country in the 50 years I've been around. It's not censorship. It's we don't need enemies of the state, and that's what you are. Just because you didn't pick up arms or a gun and shot an American supporting your terror group, you're here causing violent discourse. You're stopping people from going to class. You're stopping commerce from happening in the streets of New York City. So guess what? Goodbye. We're revoking your visa or your green card. You're not an American, so you're not protected by our Constitution. And first of all, you shouldn't have been allowed into the damn country. But we know Joe and Kamala were fine with 15 million folks walking right in for 4 years.
I zoom out back to like our previous discussion about who's in charge of the Democratic Party. And if the thing
No one.
that Democrat activists are choosing to rally around most right now is Mahmoud's like departure.
And they are.
I'm like, go ahead. This is a great signal. Like if I'm thinking about the Pennsylvania suburban voters that we have to win or the working class voters in Michigan, what you're rallying around is some snot-nosed college student out there, riling things up, making people unsafe through this very incendiary
This guy's like late 20s though, isn't he? Late 20s, early 30s?
You know what? Yeah, but he was out.
He's like a young little student.
Whatever he is, he's going back, and I think it's actually a great gift to the right that this is an organizing principle now of the left.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. First of all, I mean, this guy like. As I said, it's crocodile tears that they're all. Isn't he a free speech? You guys do not actually believe in free speech. Don't hold me to a standard you don't believe in, right?
Amen.
But to your point, Matt, in the lack of leadership and that this is the issue that they're rallying behind, they're distracted by the shiny objects, right? There's Elon Musk is out there, with that chainsaw running through the bureaucracies that you love, right? Donald Trump is pounding executive orders out of 1600 Pennsylvania, right? And you're over here busy with this guy
with Mahmoud's departure.
And the media's jumping right on the bandwagon.
You know what? I hope you guys show up. I'll send some friends over. You guys focus on that. Good luck, right? And nobody's taking them seriously anyway. There's not a single soul on our side that's going to be convinced by what they're doing. I don't think, but their problem is there's not even a single serious person on their side that I think will be convinced by what they're doing, especially the voters that they need.
Well, that's the key, Matt, and I agree with you. The voters are going to look at it like, okay, you ignored Americans in East Palestine. You ignored Americans in Maui, Hawaii. You ignored them in Asheville, North Carolina. Forget political. You ignored Americans. Now the mainstream media this week and Democrats are rallying behind a terrorist Muslim sympathizer who's not even an American. And I think this is going to be, to your point, they're just going to see one more example. Democrats don't care about you. Democrats don't care if you're a Democrat voter. They don't care about Americans. They're taking up the mantle for a freaking foreign invader, as far as I'm concerned, that came here to start, and they're supporting that guy and trying to put it under the guise of free speech when all they did was censor this network for the last 2 years, got us kicked off how many freaking platforms? DirecTV, Verizon, Frontier, YouTube, you name it. They have censored so many conservatives. I don't want to hear your bull that, oh, Trump is censoring this guy. Oh my God, he's taking away his free speech.
It is abjectly false that a majority of Muslims hate all of us.
We'll agree to disagree. I'll say
I think
a majority.
I think that the political Islam that we see reflected in some of these war-torn areas that have been war-torn is incredibly dangerous and challenging. But look, there was a ton of Muslim vote for Donald Trump. There was a ton of people who were unwilling to continue to buy the lies of the left in Dearborn, Michigan, and hung out with us or just didn't go to the polls. And so, yeah, I reject the notion that an organizing principle of the Muslim faith is to be against Americans or Jews or Westerners. I think it's political Islam that has
hijacked it. How about that? See, we can agree on that. How about that political Islam has hijacked their religion and turned a large portion of them into haters against Jews and Americans because of that political faction? How about that?
Those who have risen to power in places like Iran would reflect that exactly.
And a lot of countries in the continent of Africa, there's lots of places where the political leaders that are Muslim are pushing this hate. And if you don't convert, you're dead. So maybe I'll agree with you to a point that it's not a majority of every single one of them, because I know there's billions of Muslims on the planet, but the majority, if not all, of the political leadership pushes that hatred onto their people, and they use their religion for it.
In a lot of places.
How about that?
Well, I think that there needs to be, it's a nuanced discussion. I think there needs to be a understanding of the nuance of like Wahhabism, right? And like this particular strain of Islam that comes out of Saudi Arabia, that's, with financial backing of Saudi Arabia spread throughout the world, with their madrasas and stuff. There's a particular strain that kind of does it. I was watching this great interview, 2-hour interview with this guy who was, since the 70s would go visit Afghanistan and do a lot of things, and then was eventually kidnapped by the Taliban. And, he had a great love for the Afghan people and all that, and he would watch the country go from what it was to being run by the Taliban. And they asked him at the very end, they said, hey, what do you think the problem with Afghanistan is? And is it Islam? Is it the Taliban? He's like, what he said was, actually, what I think the problem with Afghanistan is the Arabization of Afghanistan, not the Islamization, right? And
what's the distinction?
Well, Afghans are not Arabs. Right. And so Afghans are a different set, actually a collection of different kinds of demographics, Pashtun, Hazaras, Kurds, Tajiks, and all that. Right. It's Central Asian types. That's not Arab. And so it's the Islam with the Arab culture bolted onto it that's being exported, that's creating the problems. Because the restrictions on women, for example, were not as heavy in
they were going in the 70s and back. They were going to college.
Right, but in Saudi Arabia, we all know what that's like, right? And so that is actually a specific discussion that needs to happen, whether Islam needs a sort of reform or a head council that says this is the real Islam and this is not, right? And that's also very difficult to do. There's all sorts of fracturing in Christianity and Judaism as well.
But let me say this though, Vish, you go show me a bunch of political Christian leaders in this country calling for the deaths of Muslims. Name me 5 names. Name me 2 names. Exactly. That's my point. We just pointed to leaders around the world, especially in the Middle East, that want Jews and Americans dead, and they're using their faith. I don't know Christian leaders who are out there, especially in our country, that are saying, death to all Muslims, death to all Jews. Name me some.
There's some Hindus in India saying that.
Yeah. Well,
again, name me some American Christian leaders or Christian leaders in the EU that are calling for the deaths, thousands, millions of deaths of people because they won't convert.
They're inviting them in. In the EU, they're rolling out the red carpet.
Yeah, nobody's doing that. So that's my point: is that Christianity versus the Muslim faith, because it's been hijacked. Let's go to Matt's point, by the political leaders, they use that faith then more to try to cleanse and say, here's why we want all Jews and all Americans dead, and be a Muslim, or else. So maybe it's not the majority of the believers, Matt, I'll try to agree with you here, but it is a majority of their leadership that pushes that. You got to admit that.
What a sad thing to fight about. What a
I know,
stupid,
right.
Thing to
Who wants who dead more?
Well, the Christ is King thing was about that too, right? And so this is the the nasty place that our politics is really going. Like, why did this thing need to come out talking about how Crisis King has been co-opted by the far right? There is a lot of different leaders from different religions with concerns about this kind of like tribal religious sort of
what are the three
conflict
things
that's
friends shouldn't
bubbling
discuss?
up, and so this Crisis King stuff, I mean, is really about a lot of Jewish leaders and a lot of Israeli folks.
I've seen that, and I
basically
think it's
saying,
BS.
like, we think this Crisis King stuff is being used as hate again, as like a dog whistle.
Yeah, and that's
to
ridiculous.
Signal hate against us.
I've heard that from Jewish people.
And that's and so that's that the Groypers and Nick Fuentes say Crisis King, and what that means is that they really hate Jews, and that's the problem, right? Is that well, who gets to define that anyway in the first place? And so, is the Pope going to come out and put out a statement on what Christ is King actually means? Right? Is that something?
Is there like a religion language police that decides this for all of us?
Right.
What we're allowed to say.
I think when three friends are having booze, the three things I was always taught we don't discuss, right? But since we're in the political game, we have to. You don't talk politics, religion, or tell people how to raise their kids. That's the three things you don't do to a friend.
There you go.
Right?
All right, well, let's talk about something more pleasant, like Snow White.
Oh, gosh. Now we're going to Hollywood and going woke.
We're going to Hollywood because something happened
I'm gonna need a drink for
interestingly.
that, Matt.
Yes, something happens interestingly. So they've put all this money in Snow White, and they want to have the big Hollywood premiere that you typically see for the rollout of a major motion picture. And they Disney scales down the red carpet, the premiere, because they're too worried that the principal acting talent will make an errant comment politically and drive off a good amount of the viewership. And so, like, Dan, are you buying or selling the future of Hollywood premieres being grandiose, or is now they have to scale it down because they're too afraid of the actors?
Well, as you learned about 4 or 5 episodes ago, I spent the first 14 years of my career doing entertainment news and covering red carpets. I've been to the Grammys, Oscars, and Emmys tons of times in Hollywood on those red carpets. And they've gone downhill on their production and their size for years. But I'll tell you, I think what really hurt them, besides the going woke crap that we talk about all the time on this network, is COVID. I think the American people actually realized and found out that they're non-essential. And so the viewership's down on these shows, on these big premieres. Plus, don't forget, you were just saying on 2-3 episodes ago, you barely go to the movies anymore. You wait and watch them at home so you can pause them and get a cocktail and do whatever. So
I have an overactive bladder.
I think this whole, the whole aura of Hollywood, the whole facade they've been putting out there for decades to all of us, it really got hammered away during COVID. We realized they weren't essential. And then as the wokeness continued through COVID, because every damn celebrity came out and told us to take the jab and do this and do that. And then when it got even nastier in 2020 and then again in 24 with the political race between Joe and Trump and then eventually Kamala and Trump, I think that a majority of Americans, look at the numbers, going to theaters, watching the award show. Award show season's now over, right? Their numbers were horrible. So I think it's not just we're going to scale down the red carpets because our actors might say stupid shit and then we won't get all the box office cashola. I also think it's like, why we waste the money on all these spoiled kids to let them out and dress up glamorous and act stupid? Nobody's watching that crap. Nobody cares about it anymore. Do you? I don't.
Yeah, but
20 years ago I did. I don't anymore.
I think all that's right, actually. I think all of that is exactly correct. I think that in this particular case, the fact that they have to move away from something that was so definitional for a movie launch because a viewer might see what an actor would say and be unwilling to buy that movie or rent that movie, it goes to one of the core themes of the episode is, are we moving to the parallel economy now where there's going to be like the lefty movies and the right movies? Are we only going to be allowed to see Kevin Sorbo films from now on?
You've seen what they're doing. I mean, Trump's got his 3 ambassadors to Hollywood now, right?
Yes.
And you see this thing from Wahlberg and a bunch of others pushing to film more stuff in Nevada. A bunch of them moved to Vegas, film more down in Louisiana, Florida. I mean, everybody's pushing to get out of Hollyweird.
Well, I think that this is actually a little simpler than what we think. I think they want to prevent a big red carpet blow up between the principal actress, who's probably she's already proven to be woke, but I would think that she's probably on the Palestine side of the Israel-Gaza issue. And
now we're getting to it.
And the villain is a literal former IDF soldier. So I think that there is, a little
worried about that.
There's a conflict within the conflict that they're trying to minimize.
Who runs that studio that's releasing it, by the way? It's a Disney film?
It's a Disney.
It's a Disney movie.
Snow White.
So I think that there's a little something going on there, but to the point that they are so scared of their own talent, right? And this is the way media works too. This is what allows Rachel Maddow to go on her show and be like, my execs, my company did something wrong. You know,
take a breath here. Look at where you are before you say what you're about to say about talent in the news business.
I'm just
rip them all. I don't care.
I'm saying there's certainly respect for hierarchy that generally happens, but that doesn't. I think that with certain people, especially when you get too big for your britches, like a Disney or an MSNBC, people really start thinking like, oh, I could just say whatever I want, and the execs will be okay with it. And I think that there's some people who haven't earned that, who are trying to exercise that, and these people are like, I don't think you understand. You're going to blow the audience of this whole movie by
Well, I also think after the right's big win in November, I think Hollywood, and I heard this, I won't throw him under the bus, but I heard this actually from two people. I heard this from a high executive at Hulu. He was one of the original 7 or 8 that started it, and a buddy of mine that's a producer actor in Hollywood that was in, well, then I'll give it away. He was in an Academy Award-winning film in the last 5 years. Let's put it that way. And both these guys told me, and they're more center. They're not me. They're not to the right. They're like, look, dude, we all saw what the hell happened with Trump and the big win. Hollywood's all abuzz. They were talking about this shit in November. We all get it. We don't like it. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to go where the green is. Because then that's all they care about. So I think that the reason they're canceling this too is, from what both of you are saying, they didn't want to blow up. It could cost them sales, and they don't want any more of that crap because now they know the country still is center right like it's always been. And Hollywood entertainment.
So they're all going to do that, Dan? Is this now the future?
Not all, but I think you're going to see a lot of the studios start coming back to more patriotic and family programming because they realize all that woke crap, right? An HBO show and a Showtime show that's like just all a bunch of, there is one, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys probably watch more than I do. There's a show on either Showtime or HBO that's all black transgender people. Did I see that? I mean, there's a show.
Did you fall for an internet meme?
And then no, I watched clips of it. There's a show. It's all, yeah, I'm serious. And then what, a few years ago, they had all the little kids running around. And I mean, the nasty shows that they're putting on out there, I think they realized, okay, we were virtue signaling before. We were trying to look progressive, but the country just told us in the November 5th vote, they don't like that crap. So why would we keep producing it? Because at the end of the day, what do studio execs like? Not being woke. Their frickin' paycheck. So you're going to see entertainment start skewing back towards, I'm not going to say conservative, but let's be real. No more, an entire cast
How about something
of
just original?
transgenders.
Yeah,
don't remake everything all the time.
I'm just fine if there's not a transgender dwarf. Snow White.
Well, there's not allowed to be dwarves anymore. Because
there's
that's
no
the
more
problem.
dwarves.
There's
Little
no more
people,
dwarves.
don't say that. You
Well,
can't say that.
otherwise Peter Dinklage would have been,
It's Snow White and the 7 little people now.
As the first dwarf, but we don't get Peter Dinklage either. No, because they won't even
The little
have
people.
dwarves. Yeah, they will because you're not allowed to do that.
We will try to save
But I
Hollywood
think
as
more
we
will come
save
out.
it.
By the way,
Okay.
programming note,
But-
because I know we only have a few minutes left, because people are like, where's Scott Lebedo? We had some technical issues, and Uncle Scotty, as he likes to be called, Uncle Scotty couldn't make it. We're going to get him on, hopefully next week or following weeks, but we'll get Scott on. Trust me, if you don't know who Scott Lebedo is, you haven't watched any of our shows with him on, you need to go look him up. Do your homework, do your research. He will be entertaining. He will make this podcast.
I think Vish got a text that he needed bail money. So we'll see.
what it was?
Send
I saw I had a
your
missed call
thoughts
and everything
and
from him.
prayers. And hey, look, before we go, RFK Jr. has called it out. Big Pharma and the government work together to suppress treatments like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Why? Because if they admitted those treatments worked, then they couldn't rush through the experimental COVID vaccine. And let's be honest, the big pharmaceutical companies weren't about to let effective alternatives cut into their billion-dollar payday. They didn't just push the vaccine, they made sure that there were no other options. Big Pharma wanted to be in charge of your health, not you. They wanted total control, and they wanted to use the government to get it. That's why I trust All Family Pharmacy. They provide ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and so much more. The very medications they tried to keep out of your hands. Now you can get it with no red tape, no corporate pressure, just real options. And it's not just emergency meds. You can even get your everyday maintenance medications as well. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. Use code MATT10 for 10% off. Don't wait. Be prepared. Take control of your health care. And I am taking control of this podcast to say good night, gentlemen. It has been good hanging.
Are we out? By the way, I just wanted to. I'll hide the privacy part of the text, but you can just see all the middle fingers I got from Scotty. Just a bunch of middle fingers.
Okay. We'll edit that out.
It was a no, we can have middle fingers. It's a podcast. We had a technical issue. Either he did or we did, but it's technology. And so he is just upset because he was in the middle of a protest in New York City against those wacko protesters. And so, yeah, he's like, I shut my stuff down to come on y'all's podcast. And then there was a technical issue. So I got a bunch of middle fingers. Like it's my fault, Scott.
Fortunately, sounds very Staten Island, by the way.
At least we had Staten Island here. You're representing.
Yeah.
So you showed up.
Don't mind.
Thanks for chopping it up, Vish. Thanks as always, Dan. Folks can catch Real America with Dan Ball, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific.
Yes.
On weeknights and right after The Chaser, the Matt Gaetz Show, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And we're out. We're done. That's a show.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.